What's up, everyone? We are diving back into the multiverse today for another epic. What if Naruto trained from the beginning and claimed Hinata, Ino, Tenten and Temari, Part 2? If you enjoy this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more fanfics like this. Now, let's dive right into the fanfic. Naruto woke, panting, in a Konoha hospital bed. He was still sweating from his nightmare of being eaten by a giant, roaring orange fox. He looked around, horribly disoriented. He'd never been in a room like this before, his last few memories were hazy and incomplete, and everything in the room was shining. Shinra Tensei. And then one of the ice mirrors was missing from the formation, and Haku was running away from him. Rinne Tensei. After that, his next memory was of looking down at Hinata, who was breathing again, looking up at him and telling him he had the Rinnegan. The Rinnegan. Naruto sat up, and brought a hand into his field of vision. Whoa! His hand was glistening, pulsing with a dim yet clearly visible blue light. Is this my chakra? He flexed his hand into a fist, then loosened it again. Everything else is shining with light too, everything. It's like the walls and the floor have chakra too. Is this what Hinata sees with her Byakugan? Hinata. He remembered. She died. I brought her back, I think, but is she still okay? He leapt out of the bed, and made for the door, but before he reached it, it opened of its own accord. The third Hokage stepped through, smiling. Good morning, Naruto-kun. Hokage-sama. Is Hinata all right? She's fine. She was here earlier this morning, in fact. The Hokage gestured to the glass vase at Naruto's bedside, which held a single, bright orange rose. Where Hinata had found one of those, no one would ever know. Both of you were suffering from severe chakra exhaustion, and to everyone's surprise, Hinata was the first to recover. The first thing she asked about was likewise, your condition, and I had to inform her you were still recovering. That was 2 days ago. How long was I out? 11 days. Chakra exhaustion like what you suffered is serious business. You could have died, but you're lucky. Your chakra network is surprisingly resilient. The Hokage reached out and flicked the spike of white hair at the edge of Naruto's forehead. Did you do what I think you did, to suffer this much damage? What do you mean? Naruto reached up to the white tuft of hair. I'm injured. I suppose you should just take a look for yourself. From within a pocket of his robe, the third withdrew a hand mirror. I had been ready to use ninjutsu to wake you, in case you weren't yet awake, but the medic nin who was attending you predicted you to wake up today, and I planned accordingly, he commented. Naruto took the mirror, and looked down at his reflection. 2 wide Rinnegan eyes stared back at him. The white hair, he finally asked after gawking for a while, what happened there? You forced so much chakra through your pathways at once that they were ruptured. I've only seen a shinobi's hair whiten like that once before, and it happened to his whole head. He was dead in a matter of hours. Naruto blanched. Fortunately, whatever healing power you have was able to minimize the damage, the Hokage added quickly. Your chakra pathways have recovered, as have you. You'll live. Perhaps a few years less than you might have, but you'll live. Does that mean I shouldn't use the Rinnegan anymore? No, it does not, the Hokage answered firmly. With those eyes you have the potential to become one of the most powerful shinobi in the world, just use your powers carefully. And whatever jutsu you used, that put such a strain on your body, please avoid using it from now on. I doubt you'd survive a second use of it. Now, the Hokage continued, come with me. Some very important people are very interested in what transpired in the Land of Waves. Wait. Naruto followed him. Can I see Hinata first? Ah, that won't be necessary. Hinata's one of the people we're going to see. Naruto ran to catch up with the Hokage. Wait up, Hokage-sama. Naruto was suddenly very aware that he was still wearing a hospital gown. Gathered in the Hokage's office were 3 faces he recognized: Hinata, the fire daimyo, and Asuma-sensei. There were also 4 whom he'd never seen before: an old man leaning on a cane with his face wrapped in bandages, a younger but still old man with a fluffy white mane and red marks on his cheeks, a man who was wearing white and blue cage robes, hence apparently the cage, and a man with black hair and pearly white eyes, wearing the Hyuga crest on the right sleeve of his robes. Naruto, the Hokage began, and sat behind his desk. Please give us the most detailed report you can of how you unlocked the Rinnegan, and what you did with it. Naruto blinked. Ah, it all started when me and Hinata were training in the woods, he began hesitantly. We took a minute to relax, and this kid found us, and said he was looking for medical herbs. It didn't take long before we figured out he was working with Zabuza. You guys all know who Zabuza is, right? A collective nod answered that question. Right, so, this kid starts fighting us with an ice release. I guess it was a Kekkei Genkai, and then Kiba showed up and helped us fight him off. He came back a few seconds later and trapped us all in a dome made out of ice. We were able to break out of it. He paused, and looked at Hinata. No, Hinata got us out of it. She blushed faintly. And me and Kiba left her to recover because she used up all her chakra. Hiyashi Hyuga's eyes narrowed. So, we went after this ice kid, Haku, to save Tazuna and Asuma sensei, and we found Asuma fighting Zabuza and Haku 2-on-1. He was putting up a great fight but he was outnumbered, so Kiba took on Zabuza and I fought Haku. Only, Haku had so much more chakra than I did, cause I'd been training, and there was the ice dome, and all that. Gah, I'm making excuses. Naruto ran a hand through his hair nervously. Anyway, Haku was beating me. He had me surrounded by a bunch of plates of ice, like mirrors, and he could throw Senbon through all of them. He said some stupid stuff about me giving up and letting him kill Tazuna. I said no way, and then Hinata showed up. She used a substitution jutsu on me, put herself inside Haku's power, and got cut up by Senbon too. Hiyashi's eyes narrowed further. So I went back in to help her, but she got hit by a Senbon in the heart. All eyes turned to Hinata, who was completely focused on Naruto's story, her eyes wide. After that it starts getting hazy. I started screaming, and this voice asked me, what would you do to save her? To erase this moment as though it had never happened to her. And I said I'd do anything. By now, both Naruto and Hinata were blushing furiously, and that little conversation was all in my head. By the way, he said in a small voice, then steeled himself and spoke louder. Next thing I remember, I said, Shinra Tensei, but I don't know what the jutsu did cause I don't remember the next few seconds. After that, I looked down at Hinata, he shuddered, and she wasn't breathing, so I said, Rinne Tensei. Everyone in the room sharply drew in a collective breath. Next thing I remember, Hinata was looking up at me, alive again, and she told me, he pointed at his right eye. She told me about these. Then Haku used another jutsu, and I used Shinra Tensei again, but I still don't remember what it actually did cause I passed out. Then, Hinata was carrying me, I guess she took a soldier pill for extra chakra. Anyway, she was carrying me, and said we won. Then I passed out again, and woke up back here in Konoha. The room fell deathly silent, and Naruto looked around at the gathering of extremely powerful people as though he had done something terribly wrong and was expecting an equally terrible punishment. Finally, the Hokage spoke. Gentlemen, he addressed the adults, you have all the answers Naruto and I can provide at this time. With the exception of Jiraiya, I must ask you all to leave. No one argued, but Hiyashi made his way to Naruto instead of the door, clamping a hand onto the genin's shoulder. Uzumaki, you and I will be having a very long talk about you and my daughter. Then he too left the room. Only Naruto, Hinata, the Hokage and Jiraiya remained. Naruto and Hinata immediately leapt from their respective chairs and hugged each other. Ahem, the Hokage cleared his throat, and the two released each other. Naruto, Hinata, I'd like you to meet Jiraiya, the Toad Sage of the Sannin, and the only ninja in the known world who has first-hand experience with the Rinnegan and isn't a missing nin. Jiraiya flashed a proud grin. With respect, Hokage-sama, that's, legendary Toad Sage of the legendary Sannin. Yes, well, the Hokage replied with a sigh, Naruto. Jiraiya here was your father's Junin sensei. He gestured to Jiraiya, whose grin broadened. Just as I was, in turn, his sensei. He's one of the most powerful shinobi in the world, and he's agreed to train you, Naruto. Naruto blinked, looked to Jiraiya, then the Hokage, and then Hinata. She nodded to him subtly, and whispered with a smile, good luck. Naruto shook his head, and faced Jiraiya. I'm sorry, Hokage-sama, Jiraiya-sama, but I can't. I've trained with Hinata-chan for 2 years, and that's gotten me to where I am today. What? Jiraiya roared in shock. Kid, this isn't a deal you just pass up. It's the opportunity of a lifetime. Someone thinks highly of himself, Naruto thought, but said nothing. Naruto-kun, Hinata began shakily, Jiraiya-sama is right. You'd get so powerful with that kind of tea training. Exactly. Naruto intertwined his hand with hers, and she blushed. Jiraiya-sama, as much as I appreciate it, I can't accept your offer, unless you train me and Hinata together. Everyone's eyes widened, and Naruto beamed. I already said I'd do anything for her, didn't I? Believe it, Hinata-chan and I got this far without a sensei at all. So imagine how strong we'd get if we trained under one of the Sannin. It wouldn't be fair at all for Hinata to miss out while I get the opportunity of a lifetime. Jiraiya nodded along with everything Naruto said, chuckling quietly, and when the blonde genin finished, he let himself laugh louder. Oh, I see how it is. This should be fun, and you're right anyway. Jiraiya turned his gaze on Hinata. As a Hyuga, you have incredible chakra control honed through the Byakugan and Gentle Fist, don't you? Hinata nodded after a brief hesitation. Why yes. My Gentle Fist isn't as good as some of the other Hyuga, but I use ninjutsu too, she trailed off. What Hinata-chan means is, Naruto continued, she can do things no other Hyuga has even tried to do in decades, and she's great at it. Hinata blushed and tried to hide herself deeper inside her hoodie, but got nowhere. Jiraiya nodded, smirking but not laughing at this point. Hinata, what exactly did you do to earn such praise from Naruto? What makes him say that you're great at it? The water dragon bullet, she replied reluctantly, and Jiraiya's eyebrows slid upward. IF found out in the land of waves that IF finally have enough chakra to use it, but not for too long. I see. Jiraiya rubbed his custom forehead protector thoughtfully. Well, since I'll be stuck here in Konoha anyway, training Naruto and such, I suppose I might as well train you too. There are a few jutsu you might be able to make particularly effective use of, if all this is true. Thank you, Jiraiya-sama, I mean, Jiraiya-s sensei. Jiraiya grinned. So here's the deal. I'll stick around and train you two for the next couple of months, and as a bonus, I'll stick around to see you two compete in the Chunin exams, but after that, you two had better be damned strong. In fact, I'll make you the deal right now. Jiraiya stood, and held out his hand palm up, forming a spinning sphere of chakra in his palm. This is the Rasengan, an A-ranked jutsu that requires no hand seals and no elemental affinity. Hinata, you're gonna learn it by the start of the Chunin exams. He turned to Naruto. You, kid, you're gonna learn to use those eyes properly. You'll be unlocking and mastering each path of the Rinnegan with my training, and you'll have 3 of them unlocked by the start of the Chunin exams. Those are my terms, meet them and I'll keep training you too. No problem, Naruto announced loudly. Me and Hinata-chan should have all that done in 2 weeks, tops. Believe it, I don't, Jiraiya replied, with a slight hint of cold anger in his tone. The tasks I've set for you are not easy. That's why doing them in 2 months is a fair challenge. Jiraiya made a fist, destroying the Rasengan in his hand. Meet me in training ground 35 tomorrow morning. We'll start your training then. The Toad Sage left the room, and Hinata immediately hugged Naruto again. Naruto-kun, thank you so much. Naruto, Hinata, the Hokage interrupted whatever Naruto had been about to say. One last thing before you go. The Chunin exams, as Jiraiya mentioned, are in 2 months, and you will be competing in them. The level of power you two demonstrated in the land of waves, it's just laughable for you two to remain genin at this point. Not to mention the quick thinking you showed in the Shiro Kyuden. Now, be on your way. The Hokage sighed. I have a lot more to deal with today. Blushing at the mention of the Shiro Kyuden, Naruto and Hinata quickly left the room. Naruto. Open your eyes. Naruto knew he was dreaming immediately, judging solely by the fact that he was staring up at a completely different ceiling from the one he'd gone to sleep under. He sat up, and realized he had been laying in shallow water. His back was soaked. Who's there? Over here, Naruto. He turned, and saw a smiling face looking back at him, a face framed by yellow hair as bright and spiky as his own. Next to this man, Minato Namikaze, stood a woman of the same age, with the long, scarlet hair characteristic of the Uzumaki clan. Naruto's eyes widened. Come here, son. Naruto stood, and made his way to his parents' arms. They embraced him, and he let himself cry. It's okay, Naruto. It's us, we're here now, it's not a dream. His father ruffled Naruto's hair. It's time we gave you some answers. Naruto listened, still crying quietly. Look over there, Naruto, his mother pointed, and he looked. At the far end of this giant red sewer they were in, there was a wall of golden bars that held back a giant, growling orange fox with 9 massive tails lashing behind it. That's the Kyuubi no Kitsune, the 9 tails that attacked our village 12 years ago. That night, we tried everything to stop it, but ultimately we had to resort to this situation. You're what's called a Jinchuriki, his father continued. One of 9 humans who carry a tailed beast sealed within them. So why me? Why seal the Kyuubi, in your own son? Naruto whispered, trembling. Because you're strong enough to control him, Minato replied. But that's not all. I sealed my own and Kushina's chakra in here, a leftover of our souls, so we could give you these answers. We would have wanted to be there for you from the start, but you only triggered this function of the seal when you used the Kyuubi's chakra for a moment in the land of waves. And then you awakened the Rinnegan, which cut that chakra off from you. I don't understand that at all. It's simple. We wanted you to have the power to defend yourself, so until you unlocked your Rinnegan the seal was set to leak the massive chakra of a Biju through to you. Once you had the Rinnegan, which we're so proud of you for by the way, that leak was dangerous and unnecessary, so it was sealed. Mom, Dad, how did I do that, anyway? How'd I get the Rinnegan? This time, Kushina spoke. It's triggered by absolute devotion to another person, a willingness to do absolutely anything to protect them. Your mind rationalizes this, and turns it into a question. What would you do to save this person? Naruto realized, the correct answer, the one that got me the Rinnegan, was, anything. That's right. For better or worse, you didn't stop to think about what exactly, anything, would entail, you just made that choice on instinct. And it didn't have to be that kind of love specifically, but you awakened it to save Hinata Hyuga. Minato beamed. My little boy's all grown up, I see. Naruto blushed, and Kushina smacked her husband on the back of the head. Moving on, Kushina announced, smirking as Minato rubbed the sore spot, there's a scroll in the Uzumaki clan trunk we left you, that should explain how to properly use the Rinnegan. The one I couldn't open, Naruto remembered it's about the Rinnegan. Kushina nodded, and it's sealed so only someone with a Rinnegan will be able to open it. Once you've read through some of it, you should be able to remember using its jutsu, such as Shinra Tensai. She beamed and ruffled his hair. I was never able to do it myself, ya know. I was born with another Kekkei Genkei instead. But you, Naruto, you'll be able to put that scroll to good use. But there's something else very important we have to talk to you about. Minato laid a hand on his son's shoulder. We don't understand the whole situation yet. We died before we could piece it together, but Akatsuki is trying to gather all 9 of the Biju and recombine their powers into the demon that the Sage of 6 Paths defeated 1,000 years ago. The 10 Tails. Even a single Biju's power, channeled back into the 10 Tails, you have to stop them, Naruto. Stop the Akatsuki. Gather the Jinchuriki before they do, present a combined front and defeat them. Okay, Naruto replied. I'll do that. I was already gonna become the Hokage, and with that kind of influence the other Jinchuriki should listen to me. But how will I recognize them? That's just it, Naruto. Kushina smiled down at him. Each Jinchuriki bears a stigma, a mark of their Biju. You have your 6 whiskers, for example. We don't really know all of them, but Shukaku the one tail gives its Jinchuriki black rings around the eyes. The 3 tails marks its host with a pattern like a stitch on the left cheek. The 7 tails turns the bearer's hair teal and their eyes orange, and the 8 tails puts a mark like a bull's horn tattoo on its Jinchuriki's cheek. Now, some of these marks might be covered by their bearers, but if you search for them, they'll likely seek you out in return. Kushina intertwined her hand with Minato's and finished, we have to go now, Naruto. We don't have much chakra here inside you, and when it runs out we'll vanish forever. We need to conserve it for the next time. Naruto nodded numbly, and his parents hugged him. Goodbye for now, Naruto. So, Naruto stood alone in front of the cage that had been placed in his subconscious, a few moments later. You're the Kyuubi no Kitsune, huh? The creature that attacked Konoha the night I was born. That's right, the creature within answered, making no effort to hide its annoyance. Why did you stay here, after your parents left to conserve what pathetic little chakra they had remaining? I wanted to talk to you. Naruto stared up into the hate-filled eyes of the strongest of the Biju. Is that really your name? Kyuubi no Kitsune. Number? The fox replied, surprised by the question. My name's Naruto Uzumaki. The boy continued to stare up at him without a trace of fear or even hatred. This was likely due to the rather solid wall between the two, the demon noted idly, but there was still a chance the boy was just that plucky. I'm sure you already knew that, but it feels right to introduce myself anyway. I will not tell the likes of you my name, the Kyuubi growled again, louder this time and with a hint of condescension. Don't bother asking again. So what should I call you, then? Don't call me anything. You don't interest me, so I'd rather not talk with you at all. Huh. Naruto looked around. It's so dark and depressing in here, is that because you like it this way? I don't think my mind would naturally look like this, so did you make it look like this? The Kyuubi snorted. Don't blame it on me. I had nothing to do with the pitiful state of this inner world of yours. As you can see, his tails lashed out in all directions, striking the bars of his cage. I'm completely trapped in here. But to answer your question, I don't care particularly for this scenery. It wouldn't be a great view even if I hadn't been looking at it for the past 12 years. Since you attacked the village and killed countless people, you mean? My parents, the parents of some of my classmates, some of the people I might have been classmates with are dead because of you. Then why do I see no hatred in your eyes? The Kyuubi rumbled. Why do you choose to speak with me? Because I don't understand why you did it. Why kill them? They never did anything to you, did they? I killed them because they were human. I hate you and all your kind. It's what? Horrible. Monstrous. Evil. Sad. It's sad. Why don't you hate me? The Kyuubi repeated, startled by this point. Because I feel bad for you. Naruto smiled sadly up at the look of surprise on the demon's face. The Sage of Six Paths created you, right? By splitting up the chakra of the 10 tails into 9 entities. So, in a sense you were born because of a human. Is that why you hate us? Because you didn't ever want to exist? Or is it because the humans saw you as a monster, and hated you first? Were you innocent in the beginning? The Kyuubi remained silent, pondering this. Then he spoke up louder, angrier. Do you seek to tame me, child? To make my power your own? No. It'd be nice to be that strong, but I don't want a shortcut to that power. I'm here, Naruto admitted, because I know what it's like to feel hate. To be hated. I know how much it hurts, Kyuubi. If it hadn't been for Hinata, and Iruka-sensei, and some of the other kids who looked at me like a real person, I might have turned out like you did. Hating the whole world and thinking to myself, they deserve it. They started it. They treated me like this, so it's their fault. I might have really done it, but then someone was there for me, and she saved me from that darkness. The Kyuubi listened patiently, until Naruto finished and it replied, You're not the first human to play that card against me. I don't want your pity. No, I understand that too. Pity isn't as bad as hate, because you know they're trying to help, but it still makes you feel low. Less than what you are, and what you want to be. Naruto smiled again. You know, this really is just a projection of my mind. It's a thought, and I can change that thought really easily. He looked around, humming thoughtfully, and then snapped his fingers. The dim-lit crimson sewer was replaced by a vast, serene valley ringed with trees bearing sweet fruit. The floor beneath them turned to an endless sea of soft, warm grass. The ceiling became a sky with its own glorious yellow, no, orange sun, in a perpetual sunrise. The Kyuubi looked around, shocked, even as its cage expanded to give it room to wander. Then, its attention snapped back to the boy who had done all this in the blink of an eye. Naruto was still smiling. Do you like it? I guess a Biju might find it a bit too tranquil. I could make it whatever you want. Any suggestions? 12 years I festered in a lapdog's cage in a stinking sewer, and now this, the Kyubi mused. I might yet give you my name after all. I think it's morning out in the real world, Naruto said with a glance to the cloudless sky. I'll see you again tomorrow night. Opening, Eternal Blaze by Nana Mizuki. Naruto woke, and sat up as soon as his eyes were open. He yawned, stretched, and crawled out of bed. He quickly changed into a black shirt and neon orange pants, then stuffed his mother's Rinnegan scroll in his pocket. He made himself a bowl of ramen for breakfast and packed 2 more dry rectangular packages of instant ramen into the weapons pouch on the back of his pants. After that, he made his way to the front door of the manor and opened it. Hinata stood on the other side, with her fist raised to knock. Oh, hi, Naruto-kun. Hinata-chan. He greeted her with a hug and a quick, yet hesitant kiss, at which they both blushed. I figured you'd be waiting at the training ground. And no, I wouldn't go without you. She blushed again, and toyed with her index fingers. It seemed that little habit had resurfaced, despite her efforts to suppress it. So, this is the Uzumaki Manor. Yeah, hey, maybe I could show you around after we train with Jiraiya-sensei. I'd like that. Along the way to training ground 35, Naruto grinned as another topic of conversation came to him. Hinata-chan, you remember those pranks I always used to pull? She giggled. You spray painted the Hokage monument just a few weeks ago. Not one of my better ideas, Naruto admitted. But hey, I just thought of an idea for a good one. I was thinking maybe you and I could pull some massive prank against Team 7. Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, Rock Lee, Kakashi Hatake, you really think the 2 of us could? I haven't really thought of anything, but maybe you and I could brainstorm tonight, huh? That actually sounds really exciting. Great. And maybe if we had our faces covered, they'd still suspect me, at least, so we'd have to use a jutsu no one thinks we know. They say the Rinnegan lets its user learn any jutsu really quickly, and use all the elements, so maybe if I used something like an earth release. He paused. Wait a minute, I just remembered, Hinata, when you use your Byakugan, does it look to you like everything has chakra? Not just people. Yes, she exclaimed. I've talked to the other Hyuga, but they never saw it that way. They always say, it's just a side effect of my weak Byakugan, and it's not really chakra, but, I can tell. So, they don't see it. I don't think so. If they do, they're lying when they say they don't. Maybe your Byakugan is special, if you can see something no one else can. And one day, we'll figure out how to use this chakra we're seeing. I never even considered that, Hinata replied. Do you really think so? Naruto nodded immediately, and she flashed a smile back, then looked down thoughtfully. When I woke up after the effects of the soldier pill, I couldn't find Asuma-sensei or Kiba-kun. I asked Hokage-sama, and he said they were training alone outside the village. He told me our team wouldn't be getting any missions until after the Chunin exams, and I haven't seen Asuma-sensei or Kiba-kun at all since then. Naruto pondered this. Maybe that's a good thing. Kiba's gonna need to get strong too, and Asuma-sensei taught him a lot of fire release jutsu in Wave. I think Kiba's best suited to learning from Asuma-sensei, and with all that time being trained one-on-one, we'll all do great in the Chunin exams, I can feel it. Naruto-kun, Hinata exclaimed suddenly and excitedly. I just realized, if your Rinnegan can see chakra like my Byakugan, can you see my chakra network or any of the points on it? Naruto replied sadly, I can see where you're going with that, Hinata-chan, but it's a bad idea. She looked down sadly. Teaching you the gentle fist, you're right, my father would have you killed for knowing those techniques. Can you see them, though? I can see the network glowing through your whole body, but all that light just blends together. I can't make out the actual chakra pathways at all. Shortly after that, they arrived at training ground 35, where Jiraiya was waiting. It was a simple paved field dotted with wooden dummies and posts, some of which were badly damaged. Good morning, the Toad Sage greeted with a cheerful grin. Now, I'd like to be clear on something before we get started. I'm gonna push you two harder than you'd ever dream of pushing yourselves. But, I'll do it in such a way that you won't resent me for it, and in the long run, you'll become powerful shinobi with what you learn from me. You might even thank me. But before that, there's gonna be pain, exhaustion, and maybe fear for your lives. We'll start off slow. You are still genin after all, but after that, Jiraiya trailed off. You two think you can handle it? No problem, said Naruto as Hinata nodded solemnly. Good. Jiraiya reached into one of his pockets, and pulled out a water balloon. Hinata, break that with just your chakra control. Spin your chakra around in your palm until it makes the water rip the balloon open. He tossed it to her, and she caught it. That's step 1 out of 3 to learning the Rasengan. Naruto withdrew his mother's scroll from his pocket, and opened it to confirm it was the right one. Jiraiya-sensei, he called, should I be studying this to learn the 6 paths, or do you have something else planned? Jiraiya took the scroll and scanned through a bit of it. Ah, this is significantly better material than what I had in mind. He handed it back. It's all there. What the 6 paths do, how to unlock each of them, all the Kekkei Genkai techniques the Rinnegan has to offer, and it's all in Kushina's tidy little handwriting, too. She must have studied the Rinnegan extensively in hopes of unlocking her own. She probably went so far as to condense all of the Uzumaki clan's knowledge on. There was a loud, startling popping sound, and a splash of water hit the ground. Naruto and Jiraiya turned to look at Hinata, who had dropped the remains of the water balloon and was blushing furiously. Sorry, I hadn't meant to interrupt. Stage 1 of the Rasengan in maybe 20 seconds, I'd known the Hyuga had incredible chakra control, but 20 seconds? That's just ridiculous. Jiraiya snapped free of his thoughts when he noticed Naruto smirking at him. What's so damn funny, kid? Naruto repeated what he had said in the Hokage's office with a grin. 2 weeks. Believe it. Jiraiya blinked, then grinned back. If you're serious, then that just means I get to put you through 1.5 months of hell before the Chunin exams. So maybe you should take your time. Naruto considered that for a moment. Before he could come up with something to fire back, Hinata asked, what's stage 2 of the Rasengan? Jiraiya handed her an air-filled rubber ball. Break that with your chakra. Don't just make it spring a leak, burst it to pieces. Hinata concentrated, and the rubber ball shook slightly in her hand. Is there anything I'm missing? Any advice you could give me? Only one thing. If you're pouring all your chakra into the ball and it won't break, try spinning it the other way. Actually, which way are you spinning it? He reached out and laid a hand on the top of her head. Left, she replied, and looked up at his wrist above her forehead. What are you doing? Checking which way your hair swirls. It goes to the right, so spin your chakra that way. Oh, okay. She focused her chakra again, and yelped in surprise as the balloon exploded in her hands, revealing a glowing blue-white ball of swirling chakra that promptly fell apart in her hand. The resulting gust of wind took Hinata's breath away and nearly knocked her down. Jiraiya slapped a hand over his face to hide the look of deep thought that he wore. She got through 2 stages of the Rasengan in as many minutes. Damn it, Naruto might actually be right. At this rate, Hinata might learn the Rasengan by the end of the day, and I'm scared to even look at what Naruto's done behind my back. As if on cue, Naruto's voice said with perfect clarity, here goes nothing. Shinra Tensei. Jiraiya turned, just in time to see 5 dummies obliterated by a wave of invisible force. Whoa, I knew a boy named Nagato who had the Rinnegan, which makes him a distant cousin of yours, Jiraiya began, then continued after a brief pause. He found that he could use Shinra Tensei once every 5 seconds, longer if he added more power to the jutsu. So don't rely on Shinra Tensei too heavily. Naruto nodded. So, I've unlocked 1 path. 2 if you count the one I used to bring Hinata back. If I can unlock a 3rd over the next 2 months, do I pass your test? The outer path is somewhat separate from the 6 paths. It's Kinjutsu, and I suggest you never use it again. Unlock 2 more paths in 2 months. Naruto looked down at his scroll. Oh, alright, 2 more paths, coming up. In just 2 weeks, Jiraiya-sensei, believe it. Jiraiya nodded numbly. Hinata. He pulled out and inflated a balloon with air, then handed it to her. Stage 3 is the hardest of all. The first stage taught you to spin your chakra, the second taught you to do it with power, the third will require you to do both, and maintain it in a stable sphere shape. You'll do that by creating your first Rasengan inside this balloon without breaking it. Hinata took the balloon and nodded. That doesn't sound so bad. For you, it might not be. The Rasengan was created over a period of 3 years by Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, who taught it to me and his student Kakashi Hatake. Both of us took months learning it, and you've already reached the third stage. You're a Hyuga who uses ninjutsu. It's like you were born to master this jutsu. Hinata looked down at the balloon in her palm, and mused, it was created by the fourth Hokage. Naruto's father. Naruto turned to watch and listen to this conversation at the mention of his father. That's right. I'm planning to teach it to Naruto later, but he's not ready for it yet, and the Rinnegan is more important to his skill set. The original idea the fourth had was for a powerful jutsu that required no hand seals, taking one's power over the shape of their chakra to the highest possible point. After that, he'd planned to add his own nature type to the Rasengan, but he'd died before he was able to complete the jutsu. Ironically enough, it was the tailed beast ball that inspired the Rasengan. Jiraiya paused, and looked up at the sky thoughtfully. Look at the time. He turned an apologetic look on Hinata, then Naruto, as he added, sorry, you too, but there's important research I have to work on. Stay here, continue what you're doing for a few hours, then go home. I'll meet you here again tomorrow. Hey, wait, Naruto called, and reached for Jiraiya's shoulder as though it would help. Body flicker jutsu. Jiraiya vanished. Damn it, Naruto muttered. What the hell was he talking about when he said research? Hinata blushed, and admitted, I did a bit of research on Jiraiya-sensei last night. It turns out he's an established author, and his books are intended for adult readers, she said in a small voice. Adult readers? Naruto asked, puzzled. I don't get it. Hinata played with her fingers and blushed deeper. Once I started looking up the phrase, Ika, that's when people started giving me funny looks. I found out the series has a lot of, explicit content. Naruto still looked confused, so she finished, in a very quiet voice, Jiraiya-sensei writes p-porn. Naruto blinked. So, the research is, he's probably spying on people. The greatest prankster in Konoha flashed a mischievous smirk. Remember how I said pranking Team 7 would be fun? Pranking Pervy Sage would be way better. Pervy Sage? Hinata repeated in disbelief. The name fits, doesn't it? Naruto grinned. Several hours later, Naruto opened the front door to the Uzumaki clan manor and held it for Hinata to step through. He'd spent the morning learning to properly use Shinra Tensei, and had managed to deactivate his Rinnegan with a sequence of hand seals. The whites of his eyes were white again, and the only visible change to his original eye color was the black circle set into each shining blue iris, a suppressed version of the Rinnegan's pattern. Hinata looked around at the first room of the mansion, eyes wide. It must have been built in the style of Uzushio, not Konoha. It doesn't look anything like the Hyuga estate. Her Byakugan showed her that the walls were tough clay brick underneath, coated in tiles of white marble streaked with gray. The floor was a pattern of ceramic tiles, deep blue with a mosaic pattern of teal swirls over the whole floor. Uzushio got worse weather than Konoha, tsunamis, typhoons. I suppose a building like this would be able to withstand that. She followed him down one of the hallways leading from the entrance, and they emerged from the hall into a large room with a floor of concrete, with a sizable swimming pool set into it. Last night, I read through a bit of the Uzumaki clan's history. Apparently they tested the strength of their children's wind release, by having them whip up a whirlpool in a pool like this. I haven't tried it yet. So, like the Hyuga test the strength of a child's gentle fist. Naruto nodded. When a child could make a maelstrom that touched the bottom of the pool, they were considered an adult Uzumaki. It's also kind of like how the Uchiha clan required their members to know the fireball jutsu. Naruto smiled. I mean, this was still a swimming pool, but it was important. Uzumaki kids like me would grow up swimming in it, knowing one day they'd make a whirlpool in it, he sighed. Well, technically no Uzumaki kid actually used this pool to make a whirlpool, but the ones in Uzushio were identical to this. So, the wind release runs in your family, then? Like the fire release in the Uchiha? I guess so. That would explain why the Uzumaki liked it so much, and why I have it in a ninja village full of fire and earth release users. So maybe the water release is in the Hyuga blood. Maybe. Hinata stared into the crystal clear water of the pool. Naruto-kun, I still have your Haori. Naruto nodded. Right. I left it with you in the land of waves, he beamed. You used the water dragon bullet back there, Hinata-chan. It was awesome, you even kept it going for a while. He looked down at her hands, which were suddenly forming seals. I'm going to try it again, with the water in the pool, she announced shakily, and added, water release, water dragon bullet. The head of an angry dragon rose out of the pool, followed by its long, snaking body which writhed furiously. The creature growled at her refusal to attack something with it, then slithered back into the pool with only a small splash. Hinata smiled proudly. I really did it. A year ago that jutsu almost killed me, she beamed, and turned to Naruto. So, what did you have in mind for a prank on Jiraiya-sensei, I mean, pervy sage? Naruto's eyes widened. I know, I can't believe I just said that either. No, that's not what I was thinking. I was thinking, that's gotta be my new favorite sentence. Naruto grinned. I thought maybe we'd blow pervy sage's cover when he's spying on somebody, and make sure they get a good look at his face. Then, whoever he's spying on is probably gonna spread the word, and then everyone's gonna be ready for him, next time he tries it. And, as a bonus, that means he'll be stuck training us more, instead of doing his research. As they returned down the hallway they had arrived through, Hinata mused, we definitely have to cover our faces. I could cover my eyes and use my Byakugan to see through, and you could keep your Rinnegan suppressed. He doesn't know you can do that. Naruto nodded. If we used any jutsu, he'd probably recognize our chakra, but then, he'll suspect me anyway. I've been a prankster my whole life, and you can bet Hokage-sama gave him a warning about me right away. So, that's good. Jiraiya suspecting me will deflect his attention away from you. I'll use Shinra Tensei and throw him into whatever group he's spying on. He'll drag me away, then you show up with even your eyes covered, and tell the girls he's ogling that they were rescued by some all-powerful group of S-rank ninjas, and we'll come up with a good name for ourselves. I don't understand. What's the point of all that? Well, you remember Shikamaru Nara from the academy. He once beat the tar out of me at shogi. He's a genius, believe it. Anyway, he told me something like, in any good strategy, the first attack is always a feint. So the first attack is ruining pervy sage's cover. Even if he covers that up, the people he's spying on, say, for instance, they're a bunch of cute girls in a bathhouse, they'll be talking about being saved by a shinobi group not even the Hokage knows about. That's the second attack. We're gonna make pervy sage, heck, most of Konoha, think there's a team of S-rank ninjas stalking the streets at night, and for added fun we'll say I'm one of their leaders. Then, when the time is right, we'll reveal it was just us, but we'll do it so it's a little, ambiguous, and then people won't be sure what to believe, but both stories are good for us. He paused for a moment, letting his plan sink in. And then, he added with a grin, there's your alter ego in the group, a kunoichi so skilled that she could stalk and expose a peeping sanin without using her chakra or even her eyes. So, the group has you, or that version of you, as well as their only identified member, the nine-tailed demon fox aka me, as two members of an organization of shinobi, possibly missing Nin, which claims to be vast, powerful, and hidden throughout Konoha right under the nose of the Hokage. Naruto-kun, how long have you been thinking about this? Hinata asked, wide-eyed. Since this morning, when we found out that pervy sage was actually a pervy sage. Naruto grinned. Not too bad, huh? Hinata nodded. So, a name for a team of S-rank missing nin, the only existing group like that which comes to my mind, is Akatsuki. But we don't want to pattern ourselves after them, otherwise people might think the two are connected. Even if we go with the theme opposite to Daybreak, or Red Dawn, it shows we're trying to match ourselves to them somehow. So, we should go with a name that has no connection to Akatsuki, ideally, something without the name of a color in it, and hopefully, no connection to a time of day like morning or dusk, maybe an animal theme, or a weapon we'll all wield. Hinata nodded thoughtfully. The Anbu already have an animal theme, with their masks. Maybe we should all carry a certain kind of sword. We can use both. Ninken. Depending on how it's written, that could be ninja swords, or ninja hounds. We won't wear dog masks, though, that's too much like the Anbu. I've got it. We'll wear traditional black ninja outfits, but we'll add fur to parts of the costume, and carry swords on our backs. Naruto grinned. Follow me, Hinata, he shouted gleefully, and led her down a new hallway at a run. Naruto-kun, where are we going? She called back, following. The Uzumaki clan armory, Naruto replied, as they came to a stop in a room lined with shelves. The shelves, in turn, were lined with weapons, and the most common type was a slightly curved, thin one-handed sword in a leather scabbard. The hilts of these weapons were often glistening brass, but a few were painted black. All were meant for a single-handed grip, and the handguards were bars of metal that extended past the wielder's knuckles to connect the base of the blade to the pommel. Naruto handed one to Hinata, in a soft black leather scabbard. It's called a cutlass, apparently. They were used by pirates off the coast of the land of whirling tides, who sailed from far away in ships a lot bigger than the ones we have here in the elemental countries. The hidden village of Uzushio decided they'd make great ninja weapons, and the Uzumaki in particular made them a symbol of our clan, but they changed the design a little. These are longer than a pirate's cutlass would be. The blades may be 30 inches. Naruto reached for a cutlass with a bronze hilt that was close to a dull orange. I'm not much good at melee combat, but if the wind blade jutsu can turn a kunai into a scimitar this size, imagine what I'd have if I used the same jutsu on a cutlass. I'd be swinging around a sword like Zabuza's, with one hand, easily. That's a pretty good deterrent for any close-range opponents. Have you always been putting this much work into a prank? Hinata asked, unsheathing the blade, which was still wet with oil and razor sharp. Not really, but this is a big one and I want it to work. Plus, it's the first time I've ever worked with you on a prank, so that's another reason I want to put a lot of work into it. And think about it. If we pull this off, everyone's going to be talking about Ninken. We'll be able to reuse the costumes, to keep up the illusion of a group of missing nin helping Konoha, and maybe the whole world might end up believing we actually exist. And then the other hidden villages would be afraid to mess with Konoha because they'd be messing with Ninken too. And it's even better if we publicly claim Ninken doesn't exist, cause then it's like we're trying to stay hidden. That's insane, Hinata replied hesitantly, blushing at her own words. There are only two of us. This is the kind of thing that kicks off the plot of a shonen manga. You read shonen manga? Naruto asked, wide-eyed. No, but you've told me about a few, remember? Ah, you're right, though. There's no way we could keep up the charade with two people. Maybe we could recruit more people after the Chunin exams, then make some grand return. So, in order to prank Jiraiya-sensei, you're going to actually put together a team of ninjas with the intent of protecting Konoha and rivaling Akatsuki. Hinata couldn't help herself. She let out a giggle, and reddened further. Sorry, she said through more giggling and blushing. Hinata, I think I should just tell you the truth, Akatsuki. I know what they're after. Naruto looked down at his feet. They want the Biju to reassemble into the 10 tails so they can take over the world with its power. The Jinchuriki containing them, which includes me, they'll die when their tailed beasts are torn out of them. Hinata's eyes widened. What do you mean? How could you possibly know that? I met my parents last night. My dad, he sealed my parents' remaining chakra into me along with the Kyuubi. They told me everything. Naruto-kun is the 9 tails Jinchuriki. She blinked. It all makes sense now. Why didn't we figure this out years ago? Why did no one tell him? Quote. And that's why your idea is growing so fast, she realized. You know you'll have to fight Akatsuki anyway. She slid the sword back into its scabbard, and announced, let's do it. I'm not sure if anyone will believe it, but a scheme like this, it could be the most exciting thing we ever do as genin. Blushing, she stole a quick kiss. Starting today, we're Ninken. It took Naruto almost 2 months before he realized that this was when Hinata found out about the demon sealed within him. Jiraiya grinned, as he inspected the perfect orb of swirling chakra in Hinata's right palm. It had been 2 days since the formation of Ninken, and the plan for their debut was coming together nicely. Excellent work, Hinata. You've actually learned the Rasengan in 3 days. That has to be the most incredible thing I've ever seen done by a shinobi below Junin rank, and I doubt there's a shinobi in the world other than the 5 Kage that could learn the Rasengan this quickly. Now, use it on that dummy over there. Jiraiya pointed to the wooden mannequin, with a bullseye for Shuriken Jutsu on its chest. Hinata nodded, and glanced down at her Rasengan, then back to the target. She pulled back her hand, and Jiraiya blinked in surprise. What are you? She threw her Rasengan, which struck the target's chest and obliterated the entire dummy, melting a small crater into the pavement in the process. Jiraiya stared. Was that wrong? Hinata asked, terrified at the silence that hung in the air. I can't believe it. What's wrong? She asked with a hint of panic in her tone. You threw it. You threw it. I'm sorry. I thought I was supposed to. Jiraiya turned, shocking her with his grin. The Rasengan was based on the tailed beast ball, a projectile attack. It gets more powerful when you throw it. I should have known. Jiraiya formed his own sphere of chakra and threw it at another dummy, bellowing, Rasengan. As it struck, to explode and blow a significantly larger hole in the ground than Hinata's Rasengan did. I can't believe it. I really shouldn't have underestimated you too. 2 weeks. Naruto-kun never goes back on his word, Hinata proclaimed with determination and subtle admiration in her voice. He told me this morning that he intended to unlock the Preta path by absorbing one of his own ninjutsu, and the human path by learning a jutsu from all 4 nature types other than wind release. He can do that in 2 weeks, I just know it. Maybe so. I never said he had to master any path over the 2 months, Jiraiya grinned again. I'm damned glad he convinced me to train you, Hinata-chan. She beamed and blushed at the praise and use of an honorific. Thank you, Jiraiya-sensei. I'll continue to make you proud. Jiraiya nodded, and wandered off while muttering something about his research. Hinata emulated Naruto's mischievous smile as best she could, aiming it at the back of Jiraiya's spiky white mane. Jiraiya-sensei, pervy sage, you really have no idea what's coming. I almost feel bad about this. When Naruto returned a few minutes later, he noticed Jiraiya's absence, and handed Hinata a green scroll. I finished the storage seals. It's really basic fuinjutsu, but I've never done it before, so it's kind of confusing me at this point. Your outfit and sword are in there, and it takes maybe 2 seconds to open the scroll and take it out of the seal. Plus, these things are reusable, so you can put the outfit back in, just by pushing it into the paper with a burst of chakra. He pulled an identical scroll out of his weapons pouch, and showed it to her with a grin. 4 shinobi and a very lifelike puppet entered Konoha that night, wearing the forehead protectors of Suna, the village hidden in the sands. Gaara no Sabaku was the first to pass through the gates of the village, with his arms folded over his chest and a subdued scowl on his face. Inside, however, he was grinning madly. Can you feel it, mother? Many powerful shinobi. We'll taste all of their blood, mother. Yes, my child. Kill them all, when the time is right, Shukaku replied. Kill them all. Gaara looked forward, and he let himself smirk. I look forward to proving the value of my existence, he growled quietly. Naruto, once again wearing his father's haori, stared back at the dull black eyes of the genin standing between him and Ichiraku Ramen, thoroughly puzzled. I'm sorry, could you maybe run that by me again? No problem at all, the green-clad boy replied with unnatural enthusiasm. My name is Rock Lee. I am a genin of Konoha's Team 7, the only genin in Konoha who has no ninjutsu or genjutsu. As such, I hope to become a great ninja with only my talent for taijutsu, and I would like to test that talent against you, Naruto Uzumaki, a devoted user of ninjutsu. Would you honor me with a friendly sparring match? Naruto blinked again. I guess so. But, I'd kinda like to have lunch first, he scratched the back of his head. Ah, I see. I'm obstructing your way to this restaurant. Please carry on, and forgive my rudeness. Lee stepped aside, apparently not noticing the looks of incomprehension Tuki and Ayame were giving him. Naruto stepped into the ramen stand, and as usual, a bowl of his favorite miso ramen was placed in front of him. So, Uzumaki-san. Lee sat down next to him. I have heard that something unusual happened between you and Hinata Hyuga during your mission to the Land of Waves. He glanced to Tuki. Oh, I forget myself, this is an eatery. I will have whatever he is having. He turned back to Naruto. Uzumaki-san, are you dating Hinata Hyuga? Naruto choked on his ramen, and coughed out, what? Are you dating Hinata Hyuga? Lee repeated, with exactly the same calm tone. Why would you even ask me something like that? The other genin are all wondering whether you are dating Hyuga Haim. I decided I should ask you before we spar. Okay, I'm dating her. But don't tell anyone about that, we don't want any gossip getting back to Hiyashi. I understand completely. I promise, I will not tell a soul. Lee flashed a thumbs up and a grin. Naruto rapidly finished his bowl of ramen, and Lee copied him by downing his bowl almost as quickly. So, Uzumaki-san, are you ready to spar now? Yeah, let's take it outside, and try not to break anything, alright? Lee nodded. You have my word. Naruto led him outside into the street, and Lee produced a Konoha forehead protector which he donned formally. From where he had pulled it, Naruto didn't bother guessing. Alright, let's get started, MMF. He exclaimed as Lee's fist collided with his cheek, sending him flying. He sat up, dazed, and saw Lee with one opened hand extended palm up, and the other tucked behind his back. I apologize, Uzumaki-san. I had not intended to hit you with a surprise attack, I had simply assumed you were ready. I did too. Naruto stood. This isn't gonna be easy. Alright, he called, and started forming hand seals. My ninjutsu versus your taijutsu, believe it. Wind release. Wind scar. A wave of wind blades ripped forward, carving shallow lines into the dirt as they approached Lee. In a blur, the green genin easily dodged, and rapidly closed in on Naruto. A racing wind. The boy was lifted off his feet and dropped back to earth 20 feet away, but he landed on his feet easily and attempted to move in again. Naruto retreated, and formed more hand seals. Wind release. Air bullet. Ah, I see the stories about your skill were not exaggerated. Lee shouted happily as he dodged the attack. An upper B-ranked ninjutsu that has not tired you significantly. This will be an exciting match, Uzumaki-san. By this point, the boy was simply standing there to finish his sentence, but when he finished, he lunged at Naruto, who pulled a shuriken from his weapon's pouch and threw it at Lee. Shuriken shadow clones. The shuriken split apart in a dark blur, turning into 211 shuriken. Lee dodged most, but took 2 shallow cuts to his left forearm, and winced. It is nothing. If I cannot defeat you through the pain of a few wounds, I will do 1,000 push-ups tonight, plus 100 sit-ups for each wound. He's crazy. Naruto realized, and resolved not to cut Lee again. Wait a minute, I remember you. You're the kid on Team 7 with Sasuke and Sakura. What the hell happened to you? I have been training, and devoting my time entirely to taijutsu. I will become a great ninja with only these fists, Uzumaki-san. He isn't kidding. In my time at the academy, there was only one guy worse than me at the clone jutsu who graduated. This is him. Even before Hinata and I started training, at least I could create something. This guy, not even a cloud of smoke. Naruto flashed a grin back at Lee. You're pretty good already. Naruto praised, and added, okay. I can see you're taking this seriously, so I'm gonna try a few new jutsu I've never used before. You'll be the first to ever see me use them, believe it. Lee nodded, and resumed his initial stance, then faltered. Wait, Uzumaki-san, it would be disrespectful for me to hold back while you go all out. Please give me a moment. Sure, you get ready, and I'll do the same. Naruto pulled a green scroll out of his weapon's pouch. Do me a favor though, don't tell anyone you saw me doing this. At least not for a few days. As before, Uzumaki-san, you have my word. Lee beamed and flipped another thumbs up. I swear on my youth. Huh, Naruto replied quietly enough that Lee didn't hear. What the hell does that mean? As Lee unclasped a set of training weights from his calves, Naruto pulled the Uzumaki clan cutlass out of the storage seal, unsheathing it. Wind release. Wind blade jutsu. He breathed out a coating of wind chakra onto the weapon, and the ethereal blades grew to become a 7-foot sword curved like a scimitar, wrapped around the existing weapon. A bit of concentration dulled the blades of wind so they would strike Lee but not wound him. I've never been much good at close range, but this should help once Lee gets past my ninjutsu. He stabbed the weapon into the ground so he could form more hand seals. Earth release. Earth wall jutsu. Lee and Naruto lost sight of each other as a slice of earth 2 feet thick and 20 feet long rose 10 feet into the air. It was promptly shattered by a fist wrapped in bandages, and Naruto stepped back, now startled. At this rate, I might end up using my Rinnegan, but that's not fair at all. Lee signed up to fight the ninjutsu I graduated with, not the eyes of the Sage of Six Paths. Even if he wins, that isn't fair. Naruto snapped out of his thoughts when Lee arrived in a green blur and struck him in the gut. He coughed as he was thrown backward, spitting out a bit of blood, and landed face down in the middle of the dirt road. Naruto got up, and was able to block the second strike with his new wind blade, but Lee kept coming in a blur. His eyes squeezed shut as a blow struck his ribs, and when they opened, the Rinnegan had activated. Lee's eyes widened, but he didn't pull a single punch. The next strike, aimed for Naruto's solar plexus, was blocked by a plate of black metal that materialized merely an inch above the skin. Lee pulled back, and clutched his knuckles, which dripped a bit of blood. I'm sorry, Naruto frantically called, and suppressed his Rinnegan. I never meant to. It is all right, Uzumaki-san. It simply means I will need to do. Lee looked down at his bandaged fist. Counting these, 500 sit-ups, if I do not defeat you. He beamed, as though excited about both possibilities, and the sun glinted on his teeth. No, Naruto said sadly. I used the Rinnegan, and that was cheating. The deal was just my ninjutsu against your taijutsu, and I didn't mean to use my eyes, but it happened, and it's cheating. You win, Uzumaki-san. Lee's eyes were wide. You forfeit. I actually won. Yeah, it wasn't fair for me to use the Rinnegan, and besides, I need time to figure out what exactly I just did with it. Lee beamed, looking down at his hands. I will become a great ninja after all. Guy-sensei, I will make you proud. Naruto-san, you have honor that could only be shown by one who enjoys the springtime of youth. Please be my friend. Okay. Yeah, sure. Naruto flipped a thumbs up in imitation of Lee. Just call me Naruto. Only Hinata calls me Naruto-kun, and Naruto-san is way too formal. Of course. You may call me Rock. Lee gave his own thumbs up and a disturbingly shiny grin. Yeah, see you around, Rock. Naruto smiled back, and sheathed his cutlass, dispelling the wind blade around it. He waved a hand to repair the damage done to the road by his earth wall. I will see you at the Chunin exams, Naruto. Lee picked up his training weights, and added, may the fires of our youth carry us far into the upper ranks of the shinobi. Then he vanished in a blur of green. Naruto resolved to ask Lee what exactly he was talking about, then glanced down at the plate of metal he'd created from nothing to block Lee's last attack. Did I just unlock the Asura path of the Rinnegan? He picked up the plate, which dissolved into dust that faded into invisible chakra. So, I've got the Diva path for gravity manipulation, the human path for affinities to all 5 elements, and the Asura path to make weapons out of thin air. And it's only been 12 days. Yeah, Naruto shouted, and threw a fist into the air. I really did it. 3 paths in 2 weeks, believe it. Jiraiya couldn't believe it. Hinata stood before him, beaming proudly with a Rasengan in each hand, while Naruto was grinning at his own success with the Rinnegan, which he had demonstrated moments ago. I can see now that I underestimated you too, badly. From now on, I'll train you at your proper level. Starting 2 days from now, we'll be doing non-stop survival training for the next 3 weeks, so bring food. Naruto's grin faltered, and Hinata's double Rasengan vanished. Jiraiya laughed at how quickly their pride had faded. Hey, I did tell you it was gonna get harder. We need to test the limits of your endurance now. You've shown that you have the necessary power to defeat fearsome opponents, like the ones you'll face in the Chunin exams, but now we'll see how long you can keep up a healthy offense and defense, as well as using stealth and escape tactics, over a prolonged period like an actual mission. He looked up at the sky, stained crimson by the still rising sun. I'll give you the rest of today and all of tomorrow to get ready, pack your equipment. I recommend using generic storage fuinjutsu to save a lot of space. He turned away with a grin. Now, back to my research, body flicker jutsu. He was only here for 10 minutes, Naruto grumbled at the spot where Jiraiya had stood. I'm glad he won't be getting a chance to try this again. He deactivated his Rinnegan, and added, damn pervy sage. Wait, Hinata activated her Byakugan. We should follow him, and find out where he hides the most, before our move tonight. I can track his chakra with my Byakugan. Naruto grinned again, and replied, I like the way you think, Hinata-chan. Hinata blushed faintly, both at Naruto's words and where she had found Jiraiya. Right now, Jiraiya-sensei's hiding in a bush, watching 5 girls in swimsuits, splashing each other in a lake. He has binoculars, so I guess he can do this from longer ranges. Right now, he's maybe 20 feet from them. Binoculars, for longer ranges. Or maybe he has them so he can. Naruto started blushing too. Get a good look at specific parts of these girls. Hinata looked down, blushing deeper as her Byakugan shut down. I feel dirty just talking about all of this, but, us seem to know a lot about this, and Naruto-kun, have you ever, She started playing with her fingers. No, I don't do that. By now they were both bright red. I'm 12, he added desperately. Oh okay. Hinata reactivated her Byakugan, with her cheeks still red. Jiraiya-sensei is giggling, and taking notes. Okay, the girls stopped splashing each other. He just used the body flicker. Hinata paused, and tracked the Toad Sage's chakra again. Now he's at a bathhouse, he used the transformation jutsu to turn into a woman with white hair. He's walking right in. If we tried to expose him there, Naruto said seriously, he'd change back and fight us. We're strong, but we can't fight a Sannin yet. We'd have to make our move when he's outdoors, otherwise he'd see 2 unfamiliar ninjas coming through an entrance and he'd attack first. After a few more minutes of watching Jiraiya at a long range, Hinata shut down her Byakugan. My eyes are starting to hurt, she admitted. From what I saw, it seems attacking at night is a bad idea. The best place for us to ambush him is at that lake, and who's going to swim there at night? So, tomorrow, he won't be expecting to see us at all, and we'll follow him to the lake, and blow his cover. Naruto grinned. That's the hardest part of the plan. After that it should all be easy as pie, believe it. Naruto-kun, about that, why claim to be the leader of an S-rank team of missing nin, if you're just planning to, she trailed off, unwilling to speak the details of their plan out loud in a public training ground. It's still a prank on pervy sage, after all, Naruto replied, grinning. Trust me, at the end of the day Jiraiya-sensei's probably never gonna try this again, or at least not here in Konoha. That'll get us more time to train with him, and people can have their privacy back. He paused. Besides, we have to have one identified member, so people like Hokage-sama can give us assignments. But you said we were going to, she trailed off again. Yeah, but not everyone's going to believe it, Naruto clarified. So you want us to accept missions while claiming to be S-rank shinobi? Isn't that dangerous? No. There's no way we could handle S-rank missions yet. But that's not the point. We're supposed to be just helping to protect Konoha, and that's something we could do. That's the real point. People will feel safer if they think Konoha has their own Akatsuki-level team of ninjas protecting them. Meanwhile, the people who believe the other story will tell their friends about the other part. A Sannin got caught peeping on girls, exposed by one genin with an accomplice who was probably also a genin. Hinata's eyes widened. I know we talked about this before, but it still amazes me. It's gotta be the biggest, most complex prank I've ever pulled, and if we make it work, it'll actually help Konoha. Naruto said excitedly. They're weaklings. All of them. Gaara scowled. Even their civilians are frailer than the weakest peasants we encountered on our way here. Their genin won't be much better. Gaara, Kankuro began hesitantly. We're not here to win the Chunin exams, remember? In the end, we'll be fighting Junin and Anbu, just be patient. Gaara's arms were folded over his chest, and he kept walking, but he looked back over his shoulder at Kankuro. Kankuro shuddered. Gaara was only looking into the eyes of a disguised puppet, but the pure killing intent of his fellow sand sibling was horrifying. Through his puppet's eyes, Kankuro saw the teal glare Gaara was piercing him with. I won't wait that long. I must continue to prove my existence, and if I must stalk a Chunin or Junin to do that before the attack begins, I will do it. Or else, my existence will falter and fail. I cannot have that. Kankuro gulped, and his puppet nodded. If you have to do that, please, Gaara, keep it quiet. I will make an effort, Gaara replied, and faced ahead once more. It doesn't matter to me whether these people know of my existence, so I'll at least make an effort. Kankuro breathed out, shaking with relief. Those eyes, every time he even looks at me, I can feel the killing intent of that monster. I know he wouldn't hesitate to kill me if it helped him in any way. The Jinchuriki of the One-Tails led his brother and sister aimlessly throughout Konoha, and as he did, his growl of angry disappointment became louder and more obvious. Weaklings, he snarled again. It was sheer luck that one particular genin heard this voice as he passed, and turned to look at the speaker. Shukaku, Naruto breathed, and Hinata glanced at him with concern. That's the Jinchuriki of Shukaku. I recognize those rings around his eyes, the mark of the one-tailed tanuki. Gaara turned, interested by the name of his sealed demon. The two demon carriers made their way to each other, and Gaara confirmed, yes. Within me is sealed the one-tailed beast, Shukaku no Sabaku. Why does it matter to you? And how did you know? Naruto glanced around. I'd rather we talk about this somewhere private. Could the five of us maybe visit a ramen place? I'll pay. No, Gaara responded with a quiet growl. Tell me here, and right now. I'm the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, the Kyuubi no Kitsune, Naruto admitted. I'm supposed to find all 8 other Jinchuriki so we can protect ourselves, from Akatsuki, he lowered his voice. Akatsuki exists to hunt us down and reassemble the Biju into the 10 tails. It's of no concern to me. Gaara stepped past Naruto. That's wrong. Gaara turned, piercing Naruto with the same look of fury he'd used on Kankuro. Naruto flinched, but continued, if the Akatsuki find you, they'll rip the one-tails right out of you, killing you in the process, and with the power they take from your corpse they'll take over the world. I can protect myself, Gaara replied, but the other genin had his attention now. As for the other Jinchuriki, I hold no love for them. Even the entire rest of the world means nothing to me. I care for only myself, I love only myself, and I live only for myself. Naruto gritted his teeth, and would have loved to explode on Gaara, but he understood the delicacy of the situation. He replied quietly, what do I have to do, to make you listen? There's nothing you can do. I am here only to kill, and if we meet in the Chunin exams, I will kill you. I don't care about your intentions or Akatsuki's. If anyone faces me I will kill them. Missing Nin, Genin, Jinchuriki, all of you. You're simply a means for me to prove the value of my existence, you exist solely to die, ideally by my own hand. Then that's what I'll do. Gaara gave him a look of indifference mixed with confusion, until Naruto added, I'll beat you in the Chunin exams, then maybe you'll listen to me. Gaara simply stared back at him, wearing an absolutely blank expression. That's impossible, he finally declared. Even if you were to do it, it wouldn't change me. I would still care only for myself and my continued existence, and I would kill you for your trouble. He started walking away again. Wait, what's your name? Naruto called. Gaara paused, and glanced back over his shoulder. Gaara no Sabaku. Got it. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. See you at the Chunin exams, we can settle this there. Gaara left, and his brother and sister followed. Kankuro, Temari, he began after they had walked a considerable distance, that one with the blonde hair is strong. You will not raise a weapon against him, he's mine. Gaara cracked a psychotic grin. He's the one who will truly reinforce the value of my existence with his death. His eyes, they were strange, mother. Not the eyes we're looking for, but strange and interesting. How so, child? Shukaku replied, the voice resonating powerfully in Gaara's mind. He doesn't seek to prove the value of his existence through killing someone. It's as though he believes his existence has already been proven. He has no doubt in his eyes, but no intent to kill either. He's not like me, but his existence felt very real. He isn't like the weaklings around us, which is why killing him will have so much importance. I must learn to do what he's done with his existence, to make himself so strong. Historically, Shinobi wore black suits of soft, quiet cloth for stealth on missions, and such a uniform had once been everyday apparel for shinobi. In recent decades, shinobi such as the genin of Konoha had become accustomed to wearing civilian clothing like hoodies, often lightly colored ones. The advantages of a traditional ninja uniform were not to be underestimated, however, and that was why the third Hokage, for instance, still wore such a costume under his white and red robes. Naruto had managed to produce two such outfits, and had added panels of dark gray fur fitted snugly over the shoulders, creating a uniform for Ninken. Over their right shoulders, the hilts of Naruto's and Hinata's cutlasses were ready to be drawn, and Naruto had tied a sash of dark orange cloth around his waist to complete his costume. His eyes were exposed through a slit in the black cloth that covered the rest of his face, whereas Hinata's mask had been sewn shut over her distinct, pearly lavender white eyes. They'd also bought new weapons pouches and holsters in black. After spending his childhood evading angry civilians and even shinobi while dressed in neon orange, Naruto was rather confident he'd be completely invisible in these black robes, and he said as much. "Pervy Sage is never gonna see us coming, believe it." He grinned under his mask. Although he'd originally planned to use this costume to attack at night, hiding in the treetops with an outfit this comparatively subtle would be almost as effective. Hinata nodded. Her Byakugan was already active to see through the mask that covered her easily identified eyes. Naruto's, although distinctive with the black rings in his blue irises, would be less of a giveaway until he activated his Rinnegan, and since he was planning to be identified anyway, it was all for the best. Naruto kept all of this in mind as he led Hinata through the treetops, still grinning gleefully until he thought of Gaara. Even a single Bijuu's power, channeled back into the 10 tails, "You have to stop them, Naruto." His father's words echoed in his mind. "I can't let Gaara keep on fighting alone, it'd mean a potential apocalypse when Akatsuki gathers to take him in. But, how am I supposed to get through to a guy like this?" He shook off the thoughts of the future, and concentrated on his present mission to bring down Jiraiya. The white-haired Sannin was currently giggling like an idiot, with his binoculars trained on the subtly bouncing chest of a woman who was laughing as her friend splashed her, just like yesterday. Naruto could have probably just walked right up to Jiraiya and shoved a Shinra Tensei into the back of his head, but he wasn't going to take any chances. He made a gesture with his hand, and pointed across the small lake. Hinata, who could see in all directions with her Byakugan, caught the message and leapt silently across the lake. One of the bikini-clad women happened to glance up and see Hinata sailing through the air, but she thought nothing of a ninja leaving Konoha, and Jiraiya didn't notice a thing. Said civilian witness resumed splashing her friends, giggling. Hinata landed in a tree across the lake, watching for Naruto's signal to make her presence known. Naruto, behind Jiraiya on the other side of the lake, dropped down out of the tree he'd been crouching in, and landed silently on his feet. Not even one twig snapped. Not one leaf crunched under his soles as he approached Jiraiya. Even so, the Sannin might have detected Naruto if not for his distracting research. With his hand merely a foot from Jiraiya's white mane, Naruto activated his Rinnegan, and whispered, "Shinra Tensei." Jiraiya screamed as he was thrown into the lake, landing face-first in the water between the young women he'd been spying on. It was like something out of his worst nightmares. As the shrieks of, hentai, grew louder, Hinata leapt out of her hiding spot in the tree, landing on the surface of the water with chakra control so perfect that the water never even rippled under her feet. She withdrew a kunai from her black weapons pouch, and tossed it up into the air. Naruto used the modified substitution jutsu to switch places with the kunai, and landed at Hinata's side. "Listen up," Naruto called, drawing the attention of the women and a brutalized Jiraiya. "This man, Jiraiya the Toad Sage, was spying on you, as I'm sure you've guessed by now. Such behavior is unacceptable here in Konoha, and since Konoha is under our protection, naturally we chose this moment to reveal our presence. He paused, and drew his cutlass, holding it over his head as Hinata did the same, Ninken. As long as we draw breath, no harm will come to Konoha and its citizens, whether it's physical, they pointed their blades at Jiraiya, or psychological trauma. He was rather proud of himself, for memorizing and perfectly executing the speech. Meanwhile Hinata stayed silent, as her voice could identify her just as her eyes could. Ninken sheathed their cutlasses, and Naruto finished, Jiraiya, come with me. The toad sage looked up, with his right eye already developing a black ring beneath it, and he saw Naruto's Rinnegan. If it hadn't been for the pain, he might have actually grinned. Yeah, he groaned inwardly. He's Kushina's and Minato's kid, no doubt. But who the hell is he with? Hinata, or maybe that other genin on his team. As he stood on the surface of the water, he thought more about it. All right, Ninken, he held his hands out at his side submissively, you got me. The ninja next to Naruto stood in place, while Naruto himself approached and led Jiraiya in the general direction of Konoha. So, he's got the chakra control to walk on water, Jiraiya noted. Normal genin aren't even taught to tree walk in the academy, so just what else did you pick up with Hinata's help, Naruto? When they were past the edge of the lake, Jiraiya let himself smirk. Not bad, kid. You can take the mask off, now what's all this about? Naruto turned off his Rinnegan, and removed his mask, also smirking. Pervy sage, this is about you spying on girls when you're supposed to be training me and Hinata. But that's only a part of it. Ninken's been working behind the scenes for a while now, but there's only so much we can do without the world knowing we exist. Jiraiya coasted an eyebrow. Ninken, ninja hounds, or ninja blades? That's right, Naruto replied ambiguously, Ninken. We're a team of ninja dedicated to protecting Konoha without orders from the Hokage, and my partner back there is probably explaining the exact same thing to those witnesses we just rescued. Most of our members are S rank, and they answer to me, the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. You're the leader of an S rank team of missing nin. You expect me to buy that? Jiraiya laughed. Your opinion doesn't mean much. The Hokage's opinion, and those of Konoha's shinobi and civilians, on the other hand, Naruto trailed off meaningfully. Ah, now it's fitting together. Either Konoha believes your story, or by default they believe two genin took down the toad sage. Or, was it really a genin with you? I can see you convincing Kiba Inuzuka to help you with this, from what I've heard of him, but he's not the right body shape. That was a girl you were with, and you'd never be able to convince Hinata to do this. It was Hana Inuzuka, Kiba's sister, wasn't it? Naruto remained silent and blank-faced. Jiraiya laughed again. You just sold her out by saying nothing, kid. The Inuzuka are the only clan I can think of who have a sense capable of guiding them with their eyes covered, namely their sense of smell. Hana had her eyes covered, as well as the dead giveaway Inuzuka clan marks on her cheeks, as a display of her skill with her remaining four senses. You had to back up your S rank claim somehow, am I right? It wasn't Hana. In fact, I'd never heard that name until you said it just now. Kiba never mentioned his sister, Naruto replied evenly. Jiraiya considered this. Then, who? Like I said, S-rank ninjas. I never said we were all from Konoha. Naruto flashed a grin. Now, we're going to see Hokage-sama, and both try to tell on each other. Jiraiya nodded. Well played, but like I said before, I don't buy it. And like I said before, it doesn't matter. Hiruzen Sarutobi smiled with genuine amusement. The effort in Naruto's scheme was to be applauded, but the third Hokage had been playing this game for far longer. He'd seen through to the truth almost instantly, thanks to Jiraiya delivering a detailed report just before Naruto began his story. I suppose Hinata found this little event thrilling and romantic, taking on a Sannin with only each other for backup whilst claiming to be heroes. And so, Naruto finished. I escorted Jiraiya-sensei here, knowing he'd expect to turn this incident against me and dodge the evidence, and so he was willing to come here to risk meeting his punishment. I see. Sarutobi lit his pipe. Who was your accomplice, really? I know she was a Konoha kunoichi. Naruto sighed in disappointment, and I have a solid guess as to her identity, but I'd love to hear it from you. If I give you a name, it doesn't leave this room. She'll receive no punishment of any kind for her involvement in this, Naruto replied adamantly. As you wish. Hinata Hyuga. What? Jiraiya exploded. But she was the first, the only person I ruled out. Which is another thing that makes her the perfect partner for me to choose. Not to mention us being best friends for 2 years and now dating as well. Naruto turned a smug grin on Jiraiya. She's the closest person to me in the world, what the hell possessed you to rule her out as a suspect? She looked too nice and innocent. She's a kunoichi. Jiraiya's mouth was hanging ever so slightly open. He opened it wider to speak, but no words came out, so he instead shut it properly. Moving on, the Hokage declared, getting the attention of both, Naruto, you're to publicly confess the nature of this prank tomorrow morning. The story will spread, and everyone will realize quickly enough that Ninken doesn't exist. Then, the old man's eyes narrowed. But, you planned that as well. Naruto gave no response, and the Hokage finished. I'd expect this if you'd grown up friends with Shikamaru Nara, but as it stands I'm shocked. When did you develop this level of cunning, Naruto? About 2 years ago, when I started paying attention in history class, Naruto answered flatly. The 4 previous Hokage including my dad were all skilled at tricking people and outthinking them. I think Hashirama Senju put it best. A ninja must see through deception. He paused and laughed. I gotta be honest, Hokage-sama. I'm trying to pattern myself after you, the only surviving Hokage and the legendary professor of shinobi, he finished with respectful admiration. 2 years ago, the Hokage mused. Around the time Hinata Hyuga made friends with you. That's right. I resolved myself to graduate in the same year she would, so I applied myself in class and learned that to fulfill my dream, to be the next Hokage, being powerful wasn't gonna be enough. So, I studied the strategies of the previous Hokage and their generals, including you, and I'll admit I forgot most of it, but hey, I can come up with stuff like this now, and that's enough. Sarutobi took a long drag on his pipe. My decision stands. Deny the existence of Ninken, control the confusion as best you can. Jiraiya, teach Naruto to use that sword, or if you can't, get Hayate Gecko to do it. Hokage-sama, Jiraiya asked in confusion. I'm no good at taijutsu, Naruto clarified. Hokage-sama wants me to know how to use this sword, so my opponents will keep their distance and I can properly use my ninjutsu. I see, Jiraiya nodded. All right. Hayate's a great choice to teach Kenjutsu, the best swordsman in Konoha from what they tell me. That, however, he added, is gonna wait until you and Hinata survive the Forest of Death for 3 weeks, as promised. Forest of Death. Naruto gulped. Jiraiya grinned evilly. Payback time, kid. X. Naruto opened his eyes, and found himself once more in the vibrant meadow he had created for the 9 tails. He glanced down at himself, and was reminded that he'd gone to sleep in his full Ninken uniform. The cutlass sheath on his back was empty, and he vaguely recalled laying the weapon on the lid of his father's heirloom trunk. The tips of Kyuubi's tails twitched as it noticed Naruto's arrival. Welcome back, it greeted half-heartedly. Naruto made his way to the wall of the golden cage. Hi, Kyuubi-san. Not for the first time, the demon fox turned to look at Naruto incredulously. I tire of your deceit. Tell me now, with absolute honesty, why you're doing all of this for me. He gestured around with one of his tails. When I grow hungry, mountains of delicacies present themselves. When I wish to sleep, a bed appears that I fit in. You've even allowed me to wander in this valley from time to time, that I might level forests and mountains as is my nature. But why? I don't understand. Naruto shrugged. You knew the Sage of 6 Paths, right? The Kyuubi nodded. He was like a father to me. He was also a father to 2 human sons. The older brother inherited some form of the Rinnegan that eventually evolved into the Sharingan. The younger brother inherited the strength of his father's body and will, and apparently, Naruto pointed at his own Rinnegan, he got a dormant Rinnegan too. Anyway, the sage had to pick someone to succeed him, and the sage chose his younger son. Where are you going with this? I know it all already. So you know how the story ends, except it doesn't end, does it? Naruto said sadly, and continued, the older brother attacked the younger, out of jealousy and hatred, and he became the first Uchiha. His younger brother survived, and founded the Senju clan. The two still hate each other, or at least they did, until both of them were nearly wiped out. Now there's maybe 4 or 5 Senju descendants left, including me, and Uzumaki. The Uchiha still have one genin in Konoha, a kid named Sasuke, and there's a guy named Itachi Uchiha who, like his family, succumbed to hatred and killed off his own clan. The Kyuubi's tails waved airily behind him, and he listened. Naruto kept talking, so you see, This hatred kept going for centuries, and thousands of people died because of it. And then, there's you and your hatred for humanity. It brought you here to Konoha, and now you're sealed inside me. By every example that's come before us, I should hate you for what you've done, but I paid attention in history class. I know how the story ends, it doesn't. You and I either spend the rest of my life hating each other, and you die when I do, or you break free and start killing people again. That's how everyone expects the story to end. Or, the Kyuubi asked, now genuinely interested. Or we can break the cycle. You and I are the only two people involved in the hatred now, there's no one to stop us from ending it forever. There were always a few Uchiha and Senju who said the hate should just stop, but their families were screaming for blood too loudly to notice. Now, it's just you and me, and I'm telling you I want it to stop. Let's be friends, Kyuubi-san. Naruto stepped through the bars of the cage, and held out a hand for the nine-tailed demon fox to take. The Kyuubi stood and approached, teeth bared, but Naruto didn't move away. The boy was smiling, and with those eyes. You look just like my father. You even sound like him. My father. Naruto repeated, confused. But you and my dad only met to fight. No, fool, you misheard. My father. The Sage of Six Paths. The Kyuubi laid down in front of Naruto, tail swishing contently. My name is Kurama, now put your hand down, idiot child. Naruto lowered his hand, smiling. So, are we friends now, Kurama-san? Kurama bared his teeth in what might have been a smile. No, we've broken the cycle, as you put it, I no longer hate you. Perhaps I might even respect you, for what I see of the sage in you. But I won't call you a friend. The horrifying smile faded, and the tailed beast grew serious. I might have chosen this moment to offer you my chakra, but this seal prevents that completely. You're on your own, which is problematic, as I feel a storm coming. A storm, a war. Kurama, though stretched out on his belly, still had to gaze down on Naruto. I am a weapon to be wielded, boy, and having me sealed within you doesn't make you some ultimate chosen one. You're not the first, and you likely won't be the last Jinchuriki no Kyuubi. Akatsuki will come for me, and something tells me they will arrive soon. Naruto whitened. I'm not so much scared for me, or even Hinata, he thought aloud, we're strong. Not strong enough. Kurama stood then, and glared down at Naruto. You've been training to fight Chunin level genin, in an at least moderately controlled environment. To survive a meeting with even one of the Akatsuki, you'd need my chakra, which I cannot give you. Even before I was sealed in you, I knew of the power of Akatsuki. It would take perhaps 4 of them to defeat me in my true form, and you're nowhere near the level of a tailed beast. You may have the eyes of the sage, but you don't have his power. Naruto sighed. What I was gonna say, is that if they go for Gaara instead of me. The Jinchuriki of Shukaku. Why do you worry for him? He'll die if they catch him, and if they get Shukaku from him they can merge it back into the 10 tails. So your real goal is to stop Akatsuki. Kurama laughed grimly. I'm almost glad to know that. If you were obsessed with protecting the boy himself, it would indicate irrevocably skewed priorities. You've talked to him once, and he intends to kill you. Still you seek to protect him. How do you know all of this? Naruto asked suspiciously. The tailed beasts have a limited form of telepathy, enough that I can see through your eyes in the waking world, now that we've established this familiarity. Kurama paused. All this being said, why do you care for Gaara's safety at all? Naruto didn't immediately answer, instead he ran a hand through his hair, deep in thought. After careful consideration, he began, I honestly don't know. Maybe it's because I feel bad for him, maybe I see him as the monster I could have been, but maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe my purpose in life is to save people. Kurama rumbled. Your purpose, but you've never mentioned such a thing before. Always, it's been, to be Hokage, that is my dream. I've seen it countless times in your memories. Yeah, I wanna be Hokage, Naruto agreed. But I can't stand the thought of someone dying if I could have saved them. I guess that's why, but I haven't figured all of this out yet. Let's just keep it simple. I want to save people. Gaara's one of them. Saving him will also prevent Akatsuki from taking over the world. He paused. Wait, you've seen my memories. All of them, Kurama confirmed, I began watching your life story, when I was roused by your accessing my chakra in the land of waves. It was only for a brief moment, but yes, you've done it before. So, you've lived all the things I have, then. Naruto stopped to consider this. The nine-tailed demon fox had now read all the same manga as him, tasted the same delicious ramen, had suffered the misery of loneliness as he had. Kurama now remembered what it was like to have a friend in Hinata, to graduate from the Genin Academy, to watch Hinata die and return to life. Naruto blushed, as the realization hit him like a brick wall. You saw me and Hinata kiss, you've seen me nod in every shower I've ever had. You know about the sexy jutsu.